I'm Todd Models. Well, that's the name I use for this hobby. From GeminiJets, and I'm glad you're here. A lot of you follow me on Instagram, and I follow you back. If I don't, you can see me afterward and make sure I have your account, and I'll follow you, okay? Come on in. We haven't really started yet. You decided not to take the tour, man in the blue shirt? You missed the bus? Okay, all right. All right. Hey, thanks so much for being here this afternoon. We're going to talk about collecting models. We're going to talk about GeminiJets. We're going to answer your questions, and then I'll tell you a little bit about what we do at the GeminiJets headquarters in Las Vegas. And we'll just dive right in. I'm going to have an assistant this afternoon. Give it up for Connor! Come on. You might follow him on Instagram and YouTube as Red River Aviation, and it's a pleasure to have you up here today. All right, so what I have today, first of all, is this wonderful jacket that someone gave me this morning. This is a gift from someone. It's an old flight attendant jacket, I'm assuming, from Bonanza Airlines. So I'm going to put this on and model it for you. But wanted to show this off, and in the spirit of giving, that's kind of the theme of what this seminar is going to be about today as well. All right? So while I can't give everyone in here a free model, or I'm broke, I am going to give out a number of substantially good coupons with the help of Connor this afternoon, that you can visit any of the retailers in the sales rooms, in the ballrooms, and get yourself a GeminiJets model with a discount, all right? Let me put this back over here. Thank you very much. All right, first of all, I'm going to go through some basics, and Connor, if you'll just indulge me, you're all right standing there, right? Yeah. He's cute, right? You can look at. Okay. All right, so first of all, this is a Gemini 200 model. It's a very rare one. Yes. And in fact, I think this one, someone may have lost the plastic. You know that crazy piece of plastic that falls out when you open up a model box? No, there is one in here. So let me use this because I never touch my models. I always use this plastic. And that's one reason it's in the box. So you want to handle your model, always use the plastic. This is a wide body, 200 scale, so I tend to pick it up between the wings and the tail. Love that. Okay? And I'm using the plastic. I'm not using my fingers, so there's no dirt or oils that are going to get stuck and dirty up soil the model. So this is actually the first inspection I've had with this model. It is something I got today. You guys got a lot of models, I see. Bags are full. Yes. Yeah, so this model here and any other model, I would use a microfiber cloth to dust it if you have to. If you have your model sitting out or not in a closed case, I would use a microfiber cloth, it's hard to say. Much better. Yeah, or a feather duster, but you got to be careful that you don't get the feathers caught in the antennas, all right? Don't use a paper towel. Don't use an old rag out of the garage. No, I mean, you have to use something that's very, very soft and delicate.
I use paper myself, so it's pretty sweet.
Paper?
Yeah.
Paper?
No.
Okay. He's up here for the comedy this afternoon.
We'll get that.
Connor's a very comedic guy.
Yes. Yes. He's perfect for this job this afternoon. All right. So that's a little bit about cleaning your models. Taking care of your models is another thing. For the boxes, Connor, if you will, under that podium, there's an airplane shop bag. I found, and the people at Daron that run the airplane shops, I don't know if they're going to love me or hate me for saying this, but these are perfect for storing 200 scale models and 400 for that matter, because A, they're thick. Like, feel how thick that is. Anybody got models in one of these things before? They're nice and thick. Don't throw these away.
Can I tell you a story?
Don't use them for dog poop. What's the story?
I carried about 9 400s back to the Miami airplane shop in a bag just like that.
Yeah.
Back to home. So,
Okay.
And an airplane, and it survived the whole way.
Good, because it's thick,
Exactly.
it's durable.
It's like that. It's
Yeah,
outstanding. You can't even
and the handles are reinforced, So they ought to just sell the bags on the Airplane Shop website, you know?
99 cents.
But exactly. But these fit well in here. So whatever you're going to do, if you just collect or if you're going to think about reselling your models, you've got to protect the box. I don't care if it's a 400 scale, like that TWA behind you. Exactly, or a 200 scale, you've got to protect the box. It looks much better. And this model here was released in 2015, so it's 9 years old. And actually, for its age, and someone who probably didn't put it in some kind of storage, it looks pretty good, doesn't it? So that's another reason this attracted my attention today. I bought it from someone here selling models. So this and the model, which is in mint condition, to me would bring in top dollar. This I've seen sell for about $400, $500 on eBay.
eBay's your favorite place.
Not a great place to go because we've all had rip-off stories or scams or whatever. But when there's something sold out and it's just impossible to get, eBay's like a last resort.
Exactly. Yeah. First-hand market, then the second-hand market.
Yeah, yes. Absolutely.
Buy from authorized retailers, especially you kids in the front right now. You hear me?
Single them out,
Yeah.
man.
We'll get into that maybe. All right. So that's a little bit about collecting and keeping everything nice and neat so you can resell it down the road. And look, if your collection outlasts you, God forbid, but it does happen. In fact, I've met someone here today. They're selling someone who deceased their collection, and the models appear to be fairly good to really good condition. And you want to think about that. Some people have gotten into the hobby because they see the crazy prices that some models sell for on eBay. I found out about another one today that's like $1,000 for something that's that big, and I'm like, scratching my head. But it happens. We've heard it with the Delta CRJ a few years ago. A 400 scale model, so it can happen. But I wouldn't get into the hobby thinking, you know, this is going to be my nest egg, because I just don't think it'll happen. You can make some money, but you really got to care for your models, and you got to keep up on things. Yeah, you could use it to buy stock, you know, or whatever, but to live on, especially the way the economy's going, housing prices, no. All right, I'm going to open it up to a few questions right now, and then I'll move on to another topic in here. Anyone have a question about caring for models? Values of models. Okay, thank you. Hi, what's your name?
I'm Jeff. And
Jeff, hi.
I use GeminiJets fan and collector. I use canned air, spray air. Is that? I haven't had any issues. Are you? Would you support that? Is that?
Yes and no. You have to be really careful because the air can actually blow out antennas that aren't in properly.
Especially a 400 scale.
Yes. And we've had models where the factory has drilled a circular hole and then put in like a squared off antenna. Well, there's space, so it's not glued to anything.
The antenna could be as small as a fourth of the size of the actual hole itself. So
Yeah.
they can just pop right
Yeah,
out.
so that's why you have to be careful. Even with 200 scale, but if you're going to use it, I would not hold it like this, but further away for sure, and then be very, very careful with it. Best thing to do is, if possible, you want to display models, put them out in a display case with glass shelves and something that's covered with doors. Anyone else?
Front row's got to have.
Hey, for Jeff back here, what scale you collect?
Mostly 1 to 400.
1 to 400. Hey, Connor, my assistant, grab one of those coupons that say $5 and go give him one. All right?
Thank you.
All right, that's what you get for asking a question in here or answering one today. All right? Yes, sir.
Okay to use the Swift. I use a Swiffer dumpster. I know it's,
A Swiffer?
you know, the Swiffer brand.
Oh, with the handle, the small one, not the thing on the floor.
No.
Oh, okay.
You can
I
leave
like-
if you're disqualified.
The kind like use on the blinds?
No, yeah. Well, I mean, I use them really carefully.
Does it pick it up, or do they get caught in the antennas?
I'm careful about the antennas because I
Sure
have
about that.
the 1/200 scale.
Well,
yeah.
you got to take his word for it.
So
So,
I work around it, but it's
Yeah.
not okay. I mean, it's got.
is it okay?
To use? Yeah.
If it's worked for you and you haven't
Okay.
had any problems, then go for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, give him a coupon, please. What scale do
Probably
you
deserves
collect?
two, doesn't it?
200.
200, so there's a file, there's 200 scale over there on the other side. All right, all right. Yes, sir, JJ.
Yeah, so what would you say is the best advice to take care of a polished finish on a model? Like, because I see the Delta MD-11
Yes.
has a
Yeah.
polished belly on it.
Yeah,
I know
honest
it
to
can
goodness,
be-
someone the other day told me about using wax. And I'm like, well, I'm not so sure about that, but he swore by it. So, I wouldn't do that,
I'd be afraid.
but, I think the best thing to do, if there's dirt on it, and just rubbing it with a microfiber cloth doesn't remove the dirt, try just a little spit and then try it. Sometimes you guys, when you get models, there's a mark on it. It's a random mark somewhere. You think, oh, the model's damaged. It's got paint damage. Or, they make a mark here. Actually, all it is some kind of residue from the factory.
That's what I.
And you can just use it like the
That's what
lick it, wipe it thing, or a tiny bit of water on a soft cloth, and wipe that off. Or if it still doesn't come off, you can use a pencil eraser, just gently rub it. But you don't want to rub too hard because then it potentially could leave a mark on the paint finish.
How about a Q-tip? Is that too abrasive?
A Q-tip?
Too rough? I mean, if it's wet though, like then you're just.
No, I think that'd be fine. Yeah.
That's true.
All right, JJ gets a coupon over here, and you should know what he collects. Yes, sir.
I forgot.
I just want to support what you guys are saying. So if you guys know Hobby Lobby, right?
Yeah.
They actually have in the model section where the paints are and stuff, they have different types of Q-tips, all different sizes, and they come to a point. They're really actually good, and they're really super cheap, like $3 or something for a whole pack. I highly recommend it because that's what I've used, and you can just
Get
really
right around the dust, like
with a magnifying glass, and just nice and easy, and you can remove things or dab a little color on something if it's like white is easy to do, little testers, some old
Yeah, it's
scratch and dent stuff. You can really do a lot of work with that stuff, and it
Yeah.
works out well.
Okay.
Yeah, Hobby Lobby has a lot of good stuff for that.
All right, very good.
Well done.
Give him a coupon. You
I,
collect?
I work here.
Oh.
I'll take one after.
Give
Okay?
him $1 out of your wallet. Yes, someone over here had to raise their hand. No?
No?
Yes,
There we
sir.
go, much better.
So I've got a question. Gemini, you guys work with factories that are in China. Or
Yes.
you have your own factories in China. How many factories in China produce these scale model airplanes?
There are several, and that's a good topic to bring up. Give him a coupon before I forget.
200
will
or
you?
400?
Thank you.
200?
There are several factories in China, and the thing is, they're owned by the government, the Chinese government. And when the government mandates that we're going to start producing munitions, or we want to start producing automobile parts in this space, you got to get out. So we've had to actually move production from one factory to another before because the government has ordered the manufacturer to leave, and they don't have any choice. That's the way it is in China. It's getting more difficult to work with the factories in Asia because of what's happening with the political scene right now. But we're doing the best we can.
So with GeminiJets, do you distribute models from a variety of manufacturers, or do you just use one factory?
We use more than one factory to produce the models. Yeah.
And then who decides what gets?
You're
decided?
asking someone else's question. You're going to ask who gets what made,
Well,
whose
yeah, what
decision?
airline, what model, who
Okay,
decides?
I'll get into all that. So I want to bring up a little bit more about the factories because you guys are going to ask me, why does my model come broken? How come the wings are detached? How come the stabilizer's out? How come the antenna's
Time
out?
for fundamentals.
It is a big problem, and it's been that way. It seems like more like over the past 5 years, more so than ever. I've been in this hobby since 2006, and early on, I got a model in the mail from Jetway Models. This guy used to be in the Seattle area or Spokane.
And then he moved.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so it was a 400 scale Aero Classics model, and then missing this was off, that was off. I'm like, oh, this just sucks. So I emailed him or called him, whatever. he says, you know what, you're gonna be in this hobby, you've been buying models for like a year now. You should just get some super glue and it's gonna save you a lot of time and trouble. And he was right, because there is just to package this thing back up and go to the hassle of going to the post office, sending it back, and then waiting for another one. And sometimes there's something wrong with that. These models are not perfect, and they never will be. You have to reach a point where you realize that this is acceptable. I can deal with whatever little flaw, because they're made by hand. And some of these things are, you know, a lot worse condition when they come out of the box than others. There were a few today. We shipped them here. They were brand new. They were checked. They were right out of our warehouse, and they were all checked before they got packed last week. And I opened them up to put on the airport display today. Antennas are off, stabilizers are a wing came out.
Oh, no.
So it's frustrating for us, and I know it's frustrating for you as a collector. I've been in your shoes, and I still collect. I'll get a model from some source, and I'll open it up, stabilizers out, scratch the tail section, and it's annoying. And then, you know, if there's a paint scratch, that's a legitimate reason to send it back. If the stab was out and there's no damage, to me, just glue it and stick it back in and go on your way. It's a lot easier to deal with. And let's face it, the hassle of having to package things back up and go to the post office and deal with all that, it's not worth it if you could just fix it and go on. And someone's gonna say, well, I just paid $50 for this model, or I just paid $100, $200 for this. It should be perfect. Yes, in a perfect world, you're absolutely right. It should be. But that's not always gonna happen.
That's why it's as real as it gets.
Hmm?
It's life, as real as it gets.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a new reference. That's a new reference.
So that's a little bit about the factories and how frustrating it does get. And we've actually moved one factory before because of all the ongoing issues we've had production-wise over the past few years. We've said enough's enough, we're out of here, and we left. So hopefully these issues will start to stem. But I can tell you, being there every single day and reading email from retailers and getting notes and messages that are sent on to me from collectors, there's a new problem every time I turn around. So we'll fix one thing with the factory, and then by gum, there's something else that pops up over here with another. The latest now is with the 200 scale A320s, 320 Neos. They've been sticking a piece of plastic under the model, like this stuff, underneath the model. Which they've done before, but this one seems to be narrow and stuck to the bottom of the fuselage. So what's happening, that plus the fact that the landing gear on the 320 series, in my opinion, is flimsy and it doesn't hold the weight of this heavy 320 model. That's snapping off, and so we're ending up with 320s with landing gear, nose gear that's bent, or the snapped off, engines that have come off. And we never had that problem before, even with the new mold 320s that have come out over the past few years. But this is a new problem, so like I said, we'll get this fixed. We'll tell the factory you gotta raise the foam, you gotta get rid of that plastic sheet underneath, and as soon as they do that, they'll do something else stupid. So
Todd, they went in 1/200 scale from a hollow mold to a solid.
yeah, it was time to update the A320 mold, and so you may have noticed if you have 200 scale, the 320 used to be light, and it flopped back on its tail in some cases. I'll tell you what the fix is for that. Give them another coupon over there, will you?
If I have to.
There'll be one for you, don't worry.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. I'll fix you up. So the 320s, that's a good example of a mold we had to redo because the casting itself was worn out. After so many uses, it just had lost it. Plus the tail problem. So that was an aluminum model originally. Now the 320 Neo in 200 scale I'm talking about is made out of zinc alloy, and it's much heavier.
And that's the same with the 7.5, because it's a hollow. Is that aluminum too?
It's aluminum. Yeah.
But that one's been fine, because kept releasing.
Well, there's another issue right there. The 757 and 200 scale, the mold or the tooling was nowhere near the end of its life cycle.
Okay.
This is really crazy. It just cuts out and back on. Blue
Yeah,
light.
yeah.
It was nowhere near the end of its life cycle, but it broke several years ago. So we had to have the factory design and develop a whole new tooling for the 757 and 200 scale. So you may have noticed that the landing gear changed on the 757 and 200 scale. It's not the same, but it's because there's a whole new tooling that now produces our 200 scale 757s. Am I a fan of it? It's pretty good. Did I like the original? You bet.
Yeah.
That's where we had all the classic American,
The
Delta, the Eastern with the 757 on tail. Yeah,
Yeah.
those are.
I mean, that one I could actually roll it. I mean, the magnets are well enough that I could actually
Yeah.
roll the model.
So you're one of those people that's all about, it's just the landing gear rolls Everly. That's one of my most freaking hated questions. I don't know. I don't sit and roll models on desktops or play with my models. But some of you do, and that's fine. And if you want rolling gear, we'll try to help you out as best we can. You know.
Advertise the rolling gears, so that's why.
Yeah. Good question. Over here, yes.
Out of all like the scales, like all the models you produce, from each scale, what is like the most model what aircraft you had to redo the most? From 1-400 and 1-200.
What did we had to do the most?
So like which aircraft do you have to redo more often?
Oh, redo.
Redo because of imperfections, I think is what he's trying to say.
Like recast.
Re-releases perhaps?
Well, we've never had a re-release because of.
I'm talking about like if there's like issues with the mold, like how often, like what aircraft do you most like have to like fix?
Well,
in terms of the mold?
yeah, it's not a very common issue. The factory will alert us when there's a problem because they could be in the middle of a run of fuselages for, say, a 737 MAX, and all of a sudden there's a problem with the way the fuselages start coming out. So then they look at the tooling and, oh, there's a crack in here. Oh, it's not pushing together as tightly as it should. So then they start a real inspection of the tooling, and that's when they let us know, they advise us that we have to stop production of the 737 MAX, computer scale, whatever it is, until we get a new tooling, a new mold for that. But it's not very often that happens. They're usually ahead of the curve on those sort of things with the factory. Now glue is another issue, and I knew you were going to ask me about glue, right? You weren't? Okay, I'll be right with you in a moment. Yes, I question as well. Does the factory even use glue on these models? Because sometimes you'll open it up and everything's falling. It's like a kit you have to put together. And so we've addressed that issue as well with the factory. They know it. I want you to really mentally just be with me for a second here. Imagine you're in a factory in China. Life sucks. Your life just freaking sucks. And you're stuck in this place from sun up to sundown. You get paid very little. And you're sitting at a table doing this, dipping a piece in glue and sticking it into a fuselage. And a lot of these people, honest to goodness, have never seen an airplane in their life. They've never seen it. They're just following instructions from someone. Or they've looked at a piece of paper with what to do and where to put things. And you may have seen videos. Sam Chewy was over the factory and shared some footage that he was able to get. And it truly is. Now, I don't know how dressed up that was for Sam's video production, but I imagine it's probably not as squeaky clean and nice as that, where you're sitting for hours just gluing stabilizers into the, and these people, it's a mundane, boring job, and their life already sucks. So, look, I'm not saying to give these people a pass, or give the factories a pass, or give us a pass, because people are tired and worn out and the conditions suck. But that's who's making your airplane models. That's who's making my airplane models. And I've got a lot of them at home, like a lot of you probably have. So there's a lot lot that goes into the hobby that you never hear about or see about, but it's the honest to goodness truth. And these things are made by hand. They're made by just people who are going to work every day at a factory. Yes, sir, back here.
Do you, with some of the advances in advanced manufacturing, do you ever see maybe manufacturing in the United States?
It's cost prohibitive at this point.
Yeah.
Just too costly, yeah. Now, 3D printing is something that we've been exploring. And we've looked into, well, you may have seen this booth today or table over in the, one of the ballrooms. This guy has like all these towers, the
Tarmac
eight
design.
I
towers.
didn't see that.
Those are really
Tarmac design.
kick-ass. So
Yeah.
we've looked into a tower, but we've never found one that looked good enough to match the airport terminal. But yes, there are some alternatives to China, and because of the political situation, we do have to consider those if we want to stay in business. So I can't go into that in depth, but yes, good question, and you brought up a good point. Since you're so far away and there's so much between us, can you just come up and get a coupon from Connor later? Or you won't forget him, will you?
I can go take it too.
Oh, you will? Okay.
400 or 200, or both.
Anybody back there have a question as well?
I think this man, you had to
Come on, somebody else. You get a coupon to go
Get
buy a
You
model.
had to come back to this.
Okay,
man
yes,
here.
sir, right there with the red lanyard.
Hi, you guys,
I can't hear him. Please. What's that?
lanyard's rare.
The lanyard is rare?
It's rare, yeah, the red one you said.
It's rare, okay, like meat.
NG now you have as a competitor.
Yes.
NG model.
Uh-huh.
Your models are more improved now because of their quality. They seem to have, I can look at an NG model that they make, that's the one that you make. And their quality, their detail seems to be a lot more than what Gemini produces. Now, I'm not being negative about it.
Yeah, I understand.
You know, but I've noticed that it seems in the last year,
Mhm.
your models are a lot more detailed now because you have a competitor like that.
Okay, well, it could be seen as that, and that's a valid observation. Keep in mind that a lot of the molds that we've used are old,
Right.
and it was time to update them. You know, whether they needed to be remade or not, the tooling, the mold I'm talking about. When I do this, it's like left and right, because they clamp together to make a fuselage.
Right.
But in some cases, they needed to. It was time. They're like on a schedule to be redone. If there's a competitor, yes, absolutely, we've got to
Not just
watch
NG
our
models,
backs.
there's so many different competitors now.
There's
compared to
so
even
many now,
5 years
yeah.
ago, right?
One of the things that I notice about 1/400 scale is like, you'll make one, and they'll make the same one, and then Phoenix, and it's like you have 4 companies who make
Yes.
the same
It became
registration.
really
If
complicated.
it's something that's brand, like a new, paint scheme,
Right.
like the MU one's a good example. Yes, you'll see that from various
I mean,
manufacturers.
otherwise, I think you're just making a terrific product.
Well, thank you.
Really good.
There's, no matter what the brand, no matter what the mold, there's always room for improvement. That's the way I look at it. So, like I said, these models aren't perfect, they'll never be, but we can keep working to try to get
It's as
them.
real as it gets.
That's what it gets.
It's life, right?
It's life.
It's in your slogan.
Because the real signs aren't.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, there's a coupon due back here.
One each.
One each. Yeah, that's fine. Ruben.
Hey, are you guys gonna consider bringing back the club models like they used to do?
That's a good question. I'll ask about that. I think there were some logistical issues with that because and we're a very small staff. You might think, oh, they got, 25, 40 people working there in Las Vegas. That's not the case. Where we're usually running around like crazy. So it's a tight operation. And I think one of the problems with that club, those club models, was someone had to run it. Someone had to keep track of who was a member, and yeah, you're pointing to me as if I don't have enough to do. So if it was down to me alone, I'd say no. General releases only. Ruben gets some coupons over there.
Let's go.
You had to come back.
Yes,
again.
over here.
When do you decide to make what airlines and what
Okay, this was a question Gavin sent to me on Instagram, right here. So, the founder and president of GeminiJets is Elliot Epstein.
Yeah.
He grew up loving airplanes. He grew up in the upper eastern seaboard, and every weekend his mom would take him and his brother, is Russell in here? Because Russell can tell the story better, and it's pretty funny. Every weekend, the mom would take these two boys, the brothers, to some airport and just let them out of the car, and that's it. And they'd go take pictures of planes. This guy has slides, an amazing collection of slides. You've heard of a slide? You know what one is? And I keep telling him, we need to get these digitized because there's so many people that would love to see your work. And so out of all that photography, all those years ago, he went into aviation for a while, running a small airline in Las Vegas. And he was collecting dragon wings at the time. You remember those?
Yeah,
I have some
plastic wings.
Like from the late 90s, or early to mid 90s, late 90s. And, you know, I think I can make a better model than that. And they have plastic wings.
Yes.
Like, I don't really like plastic wings.
No.
So there were 4 original GeminiJets that were put together. I'm going to have a t-shirt to who can name all 4.
Ooh, I know 2 of them.
Got try.
Okay.
United 747.
United 747?
Yes.
That's one of them.
Virgin Atlantic 747.
That's one.
So United 74, Virgin 74, Air China 74, Northwest World Plane.
World plane was a theft.
Pan Am.
No, I don't think that's right.
The Pan Am? No.
I think
But you
there's
did say Virgin, so you still get a t-shirt, because there were 2. Yeah.
Yeah, there's.
All right. And then there was one that didn't come out till like 10 years later. That was supposed to be number 4. It was a United Solbass 744.
I have that
But it
one.
didn't come out till years later. And by the way, if you keep track of these item numbers, which is how this is how retailers order products,
Yep.
it's how we warehouse these things. These codes here, the 400 scales pretty much stayed in order all the way back to what was on the production list. All the way back. If you go to the database at GeminiJets.com, you'll see number 1, they're all in order. That's why they're all mixed up. It's based on the item number, and the same for the 200.
So I need now, what do you decide which one?
So Elliot is the sole decision maker when it comes to what we're going to make. But don't think some of us don't have a hand in what gets made. A la the Bonanza DC-9. Yes. Or the recent Southwest 727.
And then
So we do push sometimes. It's like, come on, this is going to sell well. This is going to do well. You got to do it. Or, you know, someone today, we're Sierra. You got to make a United 550 again. So I didn't know they're up to like $500 or something on eBay. That's because I think there's a good market. We'll remake something, but we don't do it very often.
You need the United Dreamliner 8 in the new colors.
Yeah.
The Dreamliner 8. Okay.
Second vote.
Yeah, it's not ever. It's never come out.
There is no.
Never. Okay. All right. You know, and sometimes it's like, okay, what took the 737 MAX to come out 9 United new colors so long? We didn't know.
And now you're making the 10.
And now we've had to push them out.
You made the 10 and United canceled it.
Yeah, well, that's the way it goes sometimes.
Yeah,
Sort of like the Emirates 787
existed,
10.
though.
Okay, there's a few more coupons you could go.
But the
You know what?
model
Just pick some out. They'll go from the back this
At least the real
time.
plane exists, 'cause they built it, right?
And everyone in here, we're gonna give out some coupons today too. JJ.
So, since Elliot is the one that sort of has the final say,
Yeah.
is there like a particular formula that he likes to follow with the releases? Like, will he do, because I noticed that it's like mostly American, and recently I've noticed there's a couple retros in there, and he's doing some international. So is there like a consistent formula that he likes to follow?
Well, sort of. We have retailers and distributors that are all over the world, and we have to keep them happy. And if we have a release period, when I say that, it's usually every 5 or 6 weeks. and cycle, thank you. They come out like every 5 or 6 weeks. We have to keep our retailers and distributors
In the loop.
happy with what's being released. If we have nothing for the UK, then they get pissed. If we have nothing for Australia, then they get pissed. If wherever, Canada, it goes on and on. So that's why when you see a new batch of releases announced, they're all over the place, and we try to do it that way. And sometimes the factory, they have their own way of doing things, and they don't allow us to do things that
Here's a
way.
tidbit to add though. Is it purposely done where some releases are heavier on United States aircraft relative to other regions due to the amount of collectors in the United States? Purposely done, is that by accident?
We know we always have to appease the U.S. Collectors because they're pretty much our bread and butter.
Yes.
Yes, but it's at the same time, there are things that are being done at the factory. Okay, let's say we want to do another Delta MD-11. So the factory says, okay, well, to get the most bang out of all the production and time it's going to take to put a mold in place and start making the fuselages and the tails, let's see what kind of MD-11 we can do that has similar colors or something like that. So that's the game they play at the factory, where they'll take something that we're doing and piggyback so that when they're doing, and I'm talking about JC Wings here, they decide, well, let's do it.
Like the TWA MDA Wings of Pride.
So, yes, that was irritating, by the way. It's like, dude, we don't even have pictures of the one we announced, and you're putting them all over the place, and I fired them off a nasty
And they have
note.
a different mold. They don't use the same mold as Gemini. It's got the taller main gear. It's a different mold.
It should be the same mold.
It's a different one, yeah.
Well, it's not out yet, so why don't you...
But I've seen the
Well, I mean, they've done MD-80s
they
for
look
sure.
like, yeah, because I collect the MD-80s.
Yeah.
Like, it's the same mold the JetX.
The old JetX with the jet.
Where they had the
rod.
higher gear,
Yeah.
main gear.
Yeah. So, I have not seen the Wings of Pride
I've
yet.
seen a picture of it.
I've seen
And
pictures.
it sits up like a, it's
Yeah.
like a hot rod.
But sometimes too, the pictures can be
Yeah.
deceiving.
Well, you know,
Yeah, so we'll see what happens when it comes out. But yes, they did that. There's something else we recently did, and I'll be damned if they turned around and did a Southwest 727 in blue. It's a freaking fantasy plane.
Right.
It makes no
and
sense.
It doesn't even look like the Spirit. It's
Silly,
like,
just goofy. There was never the blue Southwest 727. Yes, sir. Back here again.
When you manufacture one and it's quote unquote limited, what is the run? How many pieces, how many models?
Normally the model, the runs are like 500 to 1,000 pieces. If we know something's really popular, we'll do more, a la the Delta Widget 757 in 200 scale. It's the only one that was ever done was the one we did in 2009 or 10. So we felt it was a worthy subject to do again. So we made a lot and ended up not being enough. So there's a second wave of the second release coming out within a few weeks. They'll be out. So, okay. Some coupons you can take from the back. When I say back, yeah, because they're all different retailers. And look, I don't care once you get out here, you want to trade, mix and match with the coupons, because they all go to different retailers in the room. But they'll give you $5 off a 400 scale, $10 off a 200 scale.
Just start in the back, start giving them to people.
Yeah, there's a lot of folks with their hands up. Thank you so much, Connor. Right here with the CKC, Oklahoma, OKC, sorry.
Yes, sir. How does licensing work with the models? Do you reach out to an airline when you want to make a model, say, hey, we want to make a model of this particular plane, or do you just have a standing agreement with the airlines to make
No, it's a big production and it's quite costly, which is why our competitors don't get involved with that. But it's a real shame because they're taking money away from the airlines and people who work for the airlines and the licensing companies, and we're doing things the right way. And one other issue is with these unlicensed models that are flowing into the U.S., they can be stopped at the border anytime. And the retailer who's bringing them in gets screwed. They'll never get that shipment of models, and they're out. So we play by the rules. We have licensing agreements in place with most airlines. Some we can't get a license for, so we just don't make models of Singapore Airlines or ANA. I mean, they just don't license, they won't. So we move on, we don't work with those airlines. Same thing with Boeing, we have a licensing agreement with Boeing as well. And so when you get a model, when you're buying a model, portion of what you're paying for is going to pay for the royalties that we have to pay the airlines to use their trademarks. Okay? Yes, sir, right here.
How long on average does it take to develop like a whole new mold? For example, like the 200 scale AN225?
Well, that can take a while. How many have been looking forward to a 200 scale 767-400? Like, me too. And it was supposed to come out like a year and a half ago. But the mold went back and forth because it just needed to be fine-tuned. We got a mold sample, and that's what Elliot looks at with a fine-tooth comb to make sure everything matches a real-life 767-400. I'm using that as an example. And it can go back and forth several times. But generally not more than a year. And if we already have the tooling and we want to make a model, it could be like 6 months from the time we do the ramp up with the graphics and the design to the time it sees production. Sometimes sooner, but generally it's 6 months. Okay? Over here. Yes, sir.
Just unrelated, what is your favorite release of all time?
Wow.
That's a good question.
Yeah, that's hard.
That's a question.
No, it's not the Bonanza. I was really proud of that because it had never been done before, die cast in 200 scale. But we did in 200 scale an American Airlines 747, and it won Model of the Year 2017 or 18. And I was really proud of that. It looks kick-ass. And at the time, the only other American Airlines 747 and 200 scale was by In-Flight 200, and I don't think the mold is that great. I think the one we use is better. So that's probably my favorite model of all time. Connor's handing out the coupons, so get to you. Yes?
This has been a burning question. I have asked you this before, but
Yeah.
when is the next release that you guys have? When is that?
The next, we're looking at July 3rd.
July 3rd.
Yeah, we had to wait because just everything's behind schedule by a week, 2 weeks now. For some reason, it's way off, and it all has to do with shipping in the factories. And then we have the 4th of July holiday next week to consider. We have airliners that got in the way. We just got the new releases and all the JC wings, and we only have so much space and so many people. So we all work together over there in Las Vegas, and that's why everything got pushed back. So we're looking at next Wednesday for the new releases. Huh? We have no, but we distribute them here in the U.S.
Oh, you do?
Okay, over here, yes.
Yeah, I know you've been releasing retro planes for a while, so I was wondering when you're going to release the American Chrome liveries again.
Well, JC Wings has been doing a pretty good job of that themselves, so I don't know. I mean, they just released the 777 with the breast cancer livery in 200 scale. In 400, I'm not keeping up so much of what's being released, but they've been putting out a lot of the Chrome AA models. But there's some that are worthy of a redo, like an MD-11 in my opinion. So, you know, just think on that, but you're looking for more Chrome American. Okay. Yes, sir.
A totally oddball question. The answer may be no, but any chance that GeminiJets would have an initial public offering so that we could all invest in the company?
Oh, well, I will bring that up. Yeah, I don't know. Made by collectors who love
Owned by collectors.
collectors.
Owned by collectors.
Yeah, kind of like the TWA Wings of Pride. Owner, yeah. I'll find out, but I don't think that'll go very far. We got a lot of coupons up here, so keep them hands up. Yes?
Now I can see you made the Air Force One 747-8.
Yeah.
However, we don't know when the actual one's gonna have its actual registration, so
400 or
how do you
200
even
goals.
made a Air Force 1747 in the first place, even though we're gonna have one in
Yeah.
actual form in like in many couple of years?
Well, we use the best possible knowledge we have at the time that we want to make a model. So, as far as the 747-8, the presidential plane, the Air Force One, whatever info we had at the time is what was used for the registration number. A good example of that is the Hawaiian 787. So the models came out, everyone's like, okay, well this is not the first plane, the name's different, the tail numbers. At the time that we were working with Hawaiian Airlines, the first 787 was supposed to be, I think it's N780. And then the name was supposed to be what's on 781. It was supposed to be is it 780?
781 is where it had its name.
Okay, but it's 780 was supposed to be the first Hawaiian 787.
But I think
And something happened. Well, it's too late. These things were already in production. And in fact, we had the models done a year and a half before they were released. Because Hawaiian wouldn't let us put them out until the airplane took flight. So that's the story behind the Hawaiian. Let me come over here to the gentleman in the second row.
So how often?
Well, I'll come back to you.
Sorry, what percentage of what you do is like old school stuff, DC-8s, 7.0s, compared to modern livery?
Most is modern stuff. DC-8s we've gotten away from because we just feel there's not much market for that anymore. Same with 707.
You've never done a DC-8-71?
Well, not in 200 scale, but in 400, I think there was a UPS DC-871.
Yeah, and there was a United as well.
Okay.
But it'd be nice to have one or 200.
Well, the thing is, it's very expensive to make the molds, and if we're not going to be able to use it and reuse it to make different airlines, we've lost money on it. It's like I'm talking $50,000, $60,000 just for the clamp, the tooling. So that's why there's some things you haven't seen. Some people want us to make things that it's just like, well, there were only a few airlines that flew it or whatever. So it's just we look at the cost and think it's not worth it. Back here.
How are the molds made, and what metal are they made of?
Well, the molds, I don't know for sure what they're exactly made of. It's a heavy metal. I don't know what kind. But as I mentioned a while ago, the models themselves are made of either aluminum, which are lighter, or zinc alloy, which are heavier. And we put out to the collectors a few years ago, we asked you, how do you prefer your models? And most folks responded they wanted the heavier model, the zinc alloy version versus the lighter aluminum. Okay? He gets some coupons.
400 or 200.
Huh? Okay, yes sir, with the hat on.
When did you start production of the 250 scale?
Oh wow, weren't those cool? They had the retractable landing gear in the model, yeah. Oh god, I think that stopped around 2013, something like that. I got a bunch of those MD-80s, and there was a 737 or two, or Delta. Do you have any?
I do.
250? Okay, yeah.
How long was the run on those?
Not long.
It was just a few years because 200 scale took off, and not just our brand, but in-flight 200, it just exploded. So it's like, okay, well, this 250 line is almost dead. And the same thing with the Aces. Remember those, the fighters? We'll release one here and there, but after, it was a 10-year lapse. And it's still not discontinued, but that's not really our forte. We like commercial aircraft, and so that's where we stick with. Yeah.
How did the 172s perform, those general aviation offerings?
Those are doing really well. Yeah, we have another tooling coming out on those soon.
Very nice.
Take a coupon.
Okay.
Only if anyone gets a coupon.
Some old models had problems with zinc rot and with
Oh wow, zinc rot. Yeah. Just to show hands, has anyone ever gotten a model that has zinc rot?
Yes.
Do you know what zinc rot is?
Yes.
How about these over here on their phones?
Come on.
Oh.
They're chuckling and laughing, yeah. They're laughing at Zeb.
No
Is it like little speckles?
See, right. So this stuff, honest to goodness, you can open up a box like the clamshell, and a wing is just disintegrated the dust in the box. It is the weirdest phenomenon. But there is impurity that gets into the mold, the mix, and what happens is over time, the wing, the stabilizer, they'll just break down and completely fall apart. It'll crack in half, break in half, or just crumble into dust. And there's really no way to prevent it. Some of the models, they have cracks that develop. And it most often occurs on the wings or the stabilizers, not so much the fuselage. But it's something that it just can't be controlled. Thank God it hasn't happened very often.
No.
But I know there was a Alaska Timbers 737. Yeah, which one?
American 757.
Second release,
okay.
2012.
Yep.
Okay, that one I forgot about.
The Timbers.
The Timbers was a well-known one. To answer your question, who was it? Oh, there you are, yes. You get some coupons over there.
400
Okay, let's go to this side here. Yes, sir, in the back there. You.
What about making prime aircraft?
Prime Air?
Yeah.
We've done them, but unfortunately Amazon will only keep them for themselves. So you might find them on eBay. They won't let us release them commercially. We've done 767s. I can't tell you how many runs. Several of them. But they're only for Amazon.
Is that for all of them, including the 737 and the...
Anything we do that has Prime Air on it will be for Amazon only. We have a good deal with Amazon, an agreement, and we're not going to risk that by just putting out a model on the market. They'll find out. Besides, there's competitors that are putting out Prime Air, JC Wings releases, so you'll find them out there. Someone else had yeah.
So how far in advance do models get planned to be released? Like,
It usually takes about 6 months when we decide we're going to do something. There's a rush sometimes because we're working on a time-sensitive project. There'll be a new one that's announced next week. It's time-sensitive, so we had to push and push to get the factory to get this thing done. Okay, I can't tell you any more about it. I know you're taking notes. You want to put this on Instagram and YouTube, but I can't tell you any more about it.
Trying to tease.
In fact, it's so sensitive, man. There's a non-disclosure agreement on it, and I couldn't even send the information to a major distributor. I had to just delete it and send it without that particular model. So you'll find out what it is next week.
Now, have there ever been models that you made throughout your history that have been delayed for a certain release, and then you had to like release that certain model on that previous release and on the next release?
Because the model was delayed?
Like say for instance, like there's a issue on one model, then that has to be delayed on a certain release, and then it'll follow that up the next release.
Oh yeah, that's happened before. Yeah, that happens quite often. It's usually a production issue. They're not finished. The factory screwed up. There's not enough room in the container. Something like that. It gets bumped.
It's like the Air Canada 175 with the wrong winglets.
Well, wasn't that something? You know. So we instead of throwing all those in a dumpster, we just the warehouse workers defaced the Air Canada, and they're selling in the airplane shop there for $10. People
$10.
make them what they want.
Oh yeah, I wanted that.
Yeah.
You have one of those?
This side over here. Come on, you get a $5 or $10 coupon just for asking your question. You can even say, what color are your pants? I don't care. What color is my hair? That's a good question.
So, what is like the most amount of models that you have right now currently?
You, me?
Yeah, you.
Oh, I have no idea.
Yeah.
I have, huh?
Do you have too many now?
Oh, God, yeah. I've been at this since 2006.
Thousands.
So I thought of, who used to come to Las Vegas for the airplane shop, open house at ADI, and then you go in the back and there's models on huge discount. I've been thinking about doing that at my house when I want to call it quits, and just have open house at my house and sell the models. So we'll see. I don't know. It's a fun hobby. We love collecting, right?
Yeah. Do you remember what your first model was?
Yeah, this is a funny story. A friend of mine, I had no love for aviation growing up. I did as a kid. My grandpa took me spotting in St. Louis, and I loved it. But it was fun at the airport, the golden age of flight. And a buddy of mine worked for TWA years later, here in Kansas City. So I thought, well, I'll get him a little something TWA. I went on eBay, and there's this little model. It's by Aero Classics. I never heard of this stuff. So it got to my house, and took it out. I'm like, wow, I never knew this stuff existed. It's so detailed, it's so cool. So I ended up keeping it, and he got something else. And I kept going back to eBay because I didn't know there was a network of retailers and brands and all this stuff that I've learned. And that was the first one. It was the TWA DC-9.
Oh, cool. Was it the 40, the 30?
Todd, what is your actual title at Gemini?
Director of Customer Service and Marketing. Yes.
I was actually going to ask a question that you were just talking about in the Vegas store. Does Gemini determine which of those they sell it? I call it the warehouse sale, the first Saturday in December.
Oh, yeah.
Several times in all these Gemini boxes, it's like a warehouse sale.
Yes, it is a warehouse sale. That only happens at open house that first Saturday in December. So if you live outside of Vegas, you want to fly in, that's the time to come. Because everything at the Airplane Shop website and in the store is on sale. Plus, there's deep discounts inside of our warehouse. Excuse me.
But does Gemini determine, based on what you were answering this other gentleman's question with the airlines, I guess your agreement with them, do you have to decide which Gemini ones they can open the warehouse factory and sell based on?
Oh, we don't have to ask the airline. We'll just put whatever we want on sale back there. We have an overstock of some model. We want to move it, we'll knock it down. They sell models for $20, $30, $40.
Are you affiliated with the airplane shop?
I help man it when there's no one in there. Yeah, but that's the extent of it.
You're not.
The Airplane Shop is owned by Daron, which makes those Daron Skymarks models and the Daron toys.
Yes, toys.
Do they make exactly the same?
But you use their warehouse to sell it?
No, it's our warehouse, and they help put stuff in it, as well as the store. Are all those coupons given out?
No, I got them all.
Oh, here. How about sprinkling some, like in the back half of the room?
Okay.
You mind?
No, I don't.
You don't mind getting a free coupon, do you?
Not at all.
Okay, honestly, they're worth $5 or $10 for a model, and it says what retailer on the coupon. You just tell Connor what scale you collect when he comes around you. Yes, sir, in the back. Yes.
About doing a 1-200 space shuttle.
Wasn't that done by JC Wings or B-Box?
I think it was.
Oh, you're talking about just the shuttle. I'm thinking of a 747 that had a space shuttle on the piggybacking. Wasn't that a release in itself several years ago? They did that? Okay. That may be viable, but again, it's not aircraft and not really our forte. Yes?
So, I know you had PA aircraft in 150.
Yeah.
Is there like any, I know 1-400 is kind of small for that, but is there a way to do private jets?
Oh, we've been asked that, like the G650 or Cessna. It's so small, and that's one of the problems. I don't think it's out of the question, and it's certainly something that we've looked into, but it is really, really small. And the same thing on the other side of the coin. In 200 scale, we get asked all the time to release a terminal for 200 scale collectors. Well, it would be so big that it cost a fortune to ship it. And then where are you going to put it? You're going to have
a room like this.
So much space. So we thought of maybe doing like one gate, just to display. So you could put like this at a gate. So it'll be just one small thing. But to have a whole airport terminal, we nixed that idea. Yeah.
They did make a mat for
Yeah, it was released, I think, on the flip side of the hangar. Yes, sir.
So one model for you,
that you're like super proud of that just filled with a great need and you were just really happy about it?
A model that, like one of my favorites.
That you produced and sold that just worked out perfectly.
Well, I think that Southwest 727 is a good example of that. I was so pleased that that came out like it did. It came out very, very well. That color was so hard to match. It was really, really rough. But yeah, and they sold out like that. Yeah. Yes?
On that note, are there any like specific resources they use to match the colors and other aspects of the design to get it right?
Well, first of all, we use paint chips or paint colors, and we have the Panzo colors we get from the airline. That's first. And if we don't have that available, we look for the best possible photographs that we, either from a private photographer, private collector, photography, something like that, or we'll just have to rely on what's online. Yeah. And it's rough. The only one, like for the Southwest 727, you and I talked about this, we had to use what was on the internet and kind of go with like, well, you have to remember the lighting, and sometimes people fiddle with pictures to make them lighter, darker, you know, whatever. So it may not be as true to the color as what it really is in real life. So there's a lot of good educated guessing that goes on for the classic stuff.
Now I see you have a 1-777X mold that had the like just one with the winglets extended and one with the winglets up.
Yeah.
In the future, are you gonna make them interactive?
In 400 scale?
Yes.
That would be the ideal thing to do. I think the reason they haven't done it yet is because they haven't figured out a way to get the wingtips to retract and without adding springs or something like that to them. And that's in 400 scale. 200 scale, they did two different wingtips that you could put in. Yes.
You guys still make the 100 scale?
1 to 100 scale, those are usually made just for airlines, like airline orders, like Hawaiian will order, Emirates. And when we have leftovers, they'll be in for sale at the airplane shop in Las Vegas. We try not to ship those, they don't like to be shipped. Yeah.
I have an Emirates A380.
Okay, you have a good one. We do when there's an order for them, yeah. All right, by overtime,
It's 402.
402, okay. Real quick here, yes.
Are you guys planning on releasing any JetBlue special liveries?
JetBlue, well, first of all, let's just get some JetBlue models made first, because they've gone through some restructuring, and we held off and we missed the boat on a few things, or we were late. So I would just like to see some JetBlue coming out of production, and then maybe we could talk about special liveries. We can't work with movie companies, production companies, sports teams. They're a pain in the neck. There's too many layers of approvals they have to go through, and then there's the licensing and trademark, and they're very expensive, which is why you really don't see Star Wars, Disney, sports teams on models that we make. It's just more headache and cost than it's worth. Back here, yes.
Spare parts, do you guys still replace or?
Yeah, there's a section on the GeminiJets website. You go to the top third of the page, there's a tab marked Contact. Just click on that, scroll down, you'll see a section on parts replacement. Okay? Yes?
How much input do the airlines have? Like, do you have to get their permission to release an actual model, or you just decide what you want to do?
Well, some airlines are more hands-on than others. Lufthansa is a good example of that. It goes back and forth many times. Some airlines, they don't care. They say, here, make this, make that, make this. And so that's why we have Alaska models coming out our butts sometimes, because they keep pushing what to make. Emirates is another one. And then some airlines, like I said, they don't care. We pay the licensing. They don't give a crap what we make, It would just pay us. That's the way they look at it. All right, we're gonna have to wrap it up here. Last question.
Just real quickly on landing gears.
Yes.
Of course, 400 is kind of a little bit harder to do, but on 200, the recent release, I believe of the MD-82, the spacing on the nose gear is way wide. Is there anything that can be done with
The spacing is way wide.
Yeah, they're real wide. The front nose gear, instead of being closer together,
Okay.
they're really wide.
And on the 717 too.
Yep.
Okay, all right, I will bring that up when I get back. You're talking about 200.
That's on the 200 specifically.
Okay, all right.
Especially the 717.
Because the original 400s that came out were really good.
Yeah.
The spacing was correct, but on the new 200.
But the 200 scale.
It's really wide on those.
Okay. Yeah. How about the old 200 scale MD-80s? Have you noticed the I mean, I have several at home.
They look correct
An
back
issue
then.
to me. Maybe they were using a new tooling for the landing gear itself. And sometimes that can be a problem. You're using new technology with old molds, and they don't go well. All right. Hey, thanks so much for coming in today. All right. Who has 25 GeminiJets at home? At least 25.
Oh, jeez.
All right. Who has 50? Who has